Hello, you beautiful people. So, in Peru, maybe not so much in the developed areas, but in Peru, there are lots of stray dogs. They're everywhere. Specifically in my area and in other areas like Iquitos, Pucallpa, and other areas of Peru, they've got a massive stray dog problem. And this video is about what you should not do with those dogs. I have learned these lessons myself through making these mistakes. So, do what you want. But I'm telling you, if you make any of these mistakes, it could lead to disaster. So, speaking of dog, boom, there he goes, off to his business meeting with whatever that is. So anyway, the reason, number one, and the first thing that you should never do with these dogs, never feed them. Now, if you drop food on the ground, I think that's a rather obvious one, but maybe it's not. We all have that moment where a cute dog, and there's a good reason. I don't know if you caught the dogs fighting, but that's a pretty common understanding. Don't feed dogs that aren't yours, but the reason why you shouldn't feed the dogs is if you hand them food, first of all, they could jump forward and bite your hands when you're trying to feed them. They could, there's a lot of things. They're unpredictable. But for the most part, the dogs that are stray here are pretty well behaved. So the thing that you really need to look out for is them trying to follow you home. Now, I can't tell you how many people have dogs that here in Peru that they never really wanted, that they just ended up with because they ended up petting or feeding a dog, and next thing you know, the dog followed them home. So sometimes you'll feed these dogs food and they will follow you home. Now, if you're eating at like a market and you drop some food on the ground by accident and they pick it up, that's fine. But directly handing them food can lead to disaster. The next issue and the next thing you should not do is a lot of these dogs, and I know myself, I have to fight the urge as well. When I see an animal, I want to give it love and I want to give it attention. But here in the Sacred Valley, a lot of these dogs haven't experienced love or physical touch from human beings. A lot of times they'll shoot off. And on one hand, it's like, oh, I need to show them what that means. But if you do that, they're going to continue to follow you home, and they're going to continue to want that from you. And of course they do. They've never been shown love like that before, and now you're bringing it to them. So there are a few dogs that you can get away with this with. And this isn't like a hard fast, like every single dog you pet and every single dog you feed is going to follow you home or bite you or want more attention or get territorial over you. But the 1 in 10 can really wreck your time. And I'm going to go into a story about when I did some of these things very soon. So the next and final thing you should not do is do not call or give the dogs names. First of all, you're going to get attached. But second of all, if they can sense that you're talking to them, they're going to get invested in what you are doing and they're going to follow, get territorial, whatever. So here's the story of what I did this and how it came about me. Now, of course, you guys know about Orko. Some of you who have seen my channel. Orko was an 8-week puppy. I picked him up. I just decided he was going to be mine or I was going to foster him out. I didn't pretend like I was going to give him some attention and then not follow through with it. He is my dog now. So it's very different if you're looking at a dog and you're like, this is nobody's, I'm going to take it. Now, I mentioned quickly before I go on to the story, that there are times when it's okay to pet these dogs, and if they have a collar or look groomed, you're good to go. Some dogs wander over the streets, and even though they are owned, they still wander the streets. So if you see a dog that's wearing a collar or he looks well groomed, you're good to go. Or if they're walking with someone and it's very obviously their dog, you can pet them. Now, be careful, because sometimes dogs will be following foreigners who it looks like it's their dog, but they just fed him and pet him, and now they have a dog that's following them around everywhere. So, on to the story. This is important. So there was a beautiful dog in the last place that I lived. We didn't give him he didn't have a name. We gave him a name that I forget, that we never called it to him, told him what his name was, but we just referred to him as that. But we'll just say Buddy for right now. It wasn't Buddy, it was something else. Basically, one day I was walking back and forth, going into town and coming back, and I met a dog that I named Buddy. Buddy was a beautiful gray or golden haired, almost like a golden retriever, but really, really short hair is kind of what he looked like. It was an interesting combo. All the dogs here are mixed breeds. But anyway, came across him, and I thought he looked very cute. He was young, but he was doofy. He was real doofy, like huge paws, tripping over them. But he was like waist high on me. So I'm like I'm 6 feet tall, like 1.8 meters, I think, 1.7 meters. I forget where the 6 feet line is, but anyway. So my hip height, I have rather long legs. He was like 3-4 feet off the ground. Maybe he wasn't quite at hip, but you get what I'm saying. He was big. So I saw him. He was cute. He was kind of playful and hanging around, so I decided to play with him a little bit. I pet him, and he was following me around for that day, and I was like, okay, I didn't really think anything of it. I lost him. He lost me because he found some food on the ground before I got home, so I figured he just got distracted and lost. I didn't realize that he found food at the time. Anyway, I went out another day, and he saw me, and he came up to me, and I played with him a little bit, and went into town, got in a moto, and went into town, and I lost him, so he kind of went off about his business. I came back that day, and he was starting to follow me around anytime I left the house, and around that time I found Urko. But he came up to the door, he smelled Urko, and he smelled, there was another dog I lived with named Lucky, but they called him Loki, and I couldn't get him to leave, so I just threw some food out of the house to get him to leave, because it was starting, like, dogs were starting to fight. He was coming through, dogs were getting territorial about him and me, and him not being there, so the dogs were fighting. I almost got bit, so I just threw a piece of food to get, like, him to go get the food, and then I shut the door. Now, after that, anytime I was outside, especially with Orko, he would come up, and the other dogs got super territorial of the baby puppy who was there that was now 8 weeks old. It seemed the other dogs didn't really like this dog in the area, so they were coming up, and they were trying to attack him. He was jumping to me for protection. Sometimes he would lay down on the ground, and they would just start mauling him. Like, maul is a strong word. He wasn't, like, bleeding, but he would, like, limp away. So basically, long story short, I gave this dog food and affection, which is what the dog wanted. But essentially by doing that, I got this dog in trouble with the other local dogs who have a hierarchy. He ended up getting hurt, and it probably brought more pain than the goodness of me petting him actually brought. Now, I'm not sure what the right or wrong thing to do is, and of course I wanted to take this dog in, but I couldn't. But you just have to be really careful, and you kind of have to steel your heart when it comes to these dogs here, just because, like, there's so many, you're not going to be able to save them all, and they all need help. There's programs here where people are working on getting their vet bills, getting them neutered, so slowly over time fixes the population. But the locals here, they don't believe in neutering their animals. They believe that male dogs are much more cleanly, even though they mark, because they don't bleed every month. Like female dogs will bleed because they have their heat, so they don't get them fixed. They just keep them the way that they are. So the dogs end up breeding anyway. So that's my kind of TED talk for you. Be careful with the dogs here. If you're gonna take it home, do whatever you want. If you're not taking it home, just leave it and let it continue to survive the way that it's surviving, because then you're coming in and breaking its ecosystem. And I know that's a harsh way of thinking, but you will thank me later, or maybe hopefully you'll never even know what you're thanking me for. So yeah, but I appreciate you guys. Be careful with the dogs. Be careful with any animal in general, especially here. They're kind of nuts, but they're not. The dogs don't attack anybody, but they're nuts. Anyway, if you like this video, want more Peru tips, or just want to see what I'm doing in my life as I'm going from country to country, or as of right now I'm living in Peru full time, click this video. YouTube knows you very well. They know what you like. If you click that, you will love it, because YouTube just knows you. Otherwise, right down here, it's a little button. If you click it, we can stay in contact, and you can subscribe, and we can chat and see what's going on in the future. I'll see you soon.